What's going on there, everyone? All right, what I want to get into today, because it's not getting quite as much press coverage as I think it should, but is the Hong Kong protest over the China extradition bill. Now, through many years, we've been seeing a lot of China's territory, I guess you could say, places like Hong Kong, places like Taiwan. You could see these places are pretty against the communist control of Beijing and mainland China. And it's sad to see their struggles against this. And they're doing it all by themselves. No other country is really backing, so to say. But yeah, let's get into this protest. And one thing I do want to point out about this protest is the Chinese government really does not like this type of thing. It reminds them of the 2014 umbrella protest, which was a movement that it was pretty much it was pretty much their Occupy protest. You know how we had the Occupy Wall Street? Well, they did the umbrella protest. And it was about changes in their electoral system that they felt Beijing was going to pretty much rig the elections, which, yeah, that's what a lot of communist dictatorships do. They make sure their people are in office. It's a common thing, you know. Just look at any communist government through the past from conception to now, and you will see exactly that. They make sure everything is rigged just for their benefit to make sure that communism stays in power. That's kind of how communism works. They get rid of dissidents one way or another. But let's talk about this protest a little bit. CNN actually has for once, a decent article. See, that's the one thing good about the the websites of these places. You can you can weed out all the opinionated BS fairly quickly. But I give them credit on this story. It's fairly accurate. Here's what's happening Wednesday in Hong Kong. Violent clashes erupted. Rubber bullets, pepper spray, and hand thrown tear gas were used to push back protesters who had occupied the city's main thoroughfare near the government headquarters, as well as the roads around it. Hong Kong Police Commissioner Steve Lo Wing Chung confirmed. The protest was deemed a riot. Lo said the demonstration was being considered a riot. He added that police had been left with no choice but to start the use of force. Up to 5,000 police in riot gear were deployed to guard the building. Protesters were seen wearing helmets, goggles, and heavy-duty workmen's gloves and pulling bricks from the sidewalks. This is what happens when people are frustrated. Like I said, it seems very much so that the people of Hong Kong, they just they want democracy. They want to keep democracy. They all this is just to hold on to what they have. These places, like I stated before, they do not want to be part of mainland China. That that's just a communist regime that no one wants to be part of. These people, they don't like that shit. But what can you do? Debate over the bill was postponed. The city's legislative council had been due to hold a second reading of the controversial bill Wednesday morning local time, but it was postponed. The bill has met with widespread opposition, including from the city's traditionally conservative business community. There's one of your reasons why this is kind of a big deal. Even people with there, I will say, in a lot of Asian cultures that I've done research on, or even people I've talked to, they're really conservative. Even their liberals, by many standards, are fairly more centered towards, like, very center, if not just a little bit right leaning. What officials are saying, despite the mass demonstrations, Hong Kong's leader, Carrie Lam, has refused to withdraw the extradition bill, saying it is needed to plug loopholes to prevent the city from becoming a haven for mainland fugitives. Which I can almost I get it. I get what she's saying, but considering that they all are part of China, they shouldn't have to extradite anybody. They should be able to put them on trial there, wouldn't you think? It's the same country. Doesn't so that I don't know. Her argument it has some soundness to it, but it also has its parts where you could debate really easily some of the things she believes. Um, President Trump on Hong Kong protest. I hope they'll be able to work it out with China. Well, as we can see from his negotiations with trade, it's hard to work things out with China. It's hard to deal with communists. They're just, they're just a pain in the ass. President Donald Trump said Wednesday that he hopes things work out between the Chinese central government and Hong Kong demonstrators protesting changes to an extradition bill. I looked today, and that really is a million people. A lot of people talk about they had 2,000 people, but it was really 1,000 or it was 200. I see it all the time. But when you look at this demonstration, they said it was a million people. That was a million people, Trump told reporters in the Oval Office. That was a big demonstration as I've ever seen. So I hope it all works out for China and for Hong Kong, he continued. Asked if protesters are sending a message to China with these demonstrations, Trump said, I don't know what they are sending them. That's a demonstration that they're having. I understand the reason for the demonstration, but I'm sure they'll be able to work it out. I hope they'll be able to work it out with China. At least 72 people have been injured in Hong Kong protests over the bill. The proposed law would allow Hong Kong to extradite fugitives to territories where it doesn't have formal extradition deals, including mainland China, Taiwan, and Macau. Opponents of the bill say it could mean democracy activists, journalists, and foreign business owners could be surrendered to mainland China. See, that's one of the biggest fears I think the people that want to feel like they are a free people, even though they have a big net of communism surrounding them. That's a big thing. The democracy activists, journalists, and foreign business owners could be surrendered to mainland China. See, that is a problem because China loves to do things like that. If you are a political dissident, they love to put you in prison or have you executed. They will trump up charges. Ask Canada. They've had quite a few of their citizens been arrested on spying charges and stuff like that. And a couple of them have actually been sentenced to death. Yeah, it's a pretty wild situation they have brewing over there. This is why, in our republic, I am so happy for just being a constitutional representative republic. It's a way better and capitalist and everything that we have in America. Good Lord, man! If we didn't, can you imagine us having to live this type of life where we're fighting the press right now because the press is trying to censor every single person that does not agree with them or puts out any type of articles or anything that is not with their narrative. They hate us. They hate people that just don't go with them. If you're not a sheep being led to the slaughter, then you are an enemy of the media. And you can see this. Look at the Vox Adpocalypse. I mean, just the Adpocalypse #2. It's a constant thing. It's a constant thing. And this is one of the things that we deal with over here, but we still have freedoms. These people don't have the freedoms we have. It's crazy. Now, it goes on to talk of why the leader of Hong Kong supports the extradition bill. We'll get a little bit more of what she has to say. Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam is standing firm in her support for the proposed extradition bill despite mounting pressure and death threats. A little about Lam. Lam was chosen as the fourth Hong Kong chief executive in 2017 by a tiny election committee, becoming the city's first female leader. Following the election, however, protesters argued the decision, saying it was a selection rather than an election. That sounds like something you would typically have in a communist dictatorship. Selection rather than election. While she supports the bill, now amid more turmoil, Lam admits that the new bill is controversial, but says the safeguards have been added to the bill to protect human rights. Communist governments don't give a shit about human rights. Right now, just speaking on something that's happening right now, in Venezuela, do you think Maduro gives one damn about the human rights of the people that are killing their pets, killing zoo animals just for they can have food? Or they have to literally have a pile of worthless cash just to buy a roll of toilet paper? How much do they really care? They don't care. They don't care about human rights. They don't care about humans at all. These comments have done nothing to quell the opposition. Lam said the bill is needed to plug legal loopholes and prevent Hong Kong from becoming a haven for fugitives. Critics of the bill fear it will allow China to extradite to the mainland to face trial. The bill is expected to get a final vote as early as next Thursday. Lam addresses citizens in a pre-recorded address Wednesday where she condemned the actions of protesters and defended the actions of the police. That's not a good look. That's not a good look, especially when the people are there to protest for pretty much their freedoms from China. But I digress. These are no longer peaceful demonstrations. They are planned and intentional riots, Lam said, adding, they have done dangerous and fatal actions, such as setting things on fire, using sharp metal sticks, and throwing bricks to attack the police. Lam and Hong Kong government had acknowledged the divided opinion of amendments to the extradition bill until today, but Lam did say she understood the bill has aroused strong opposition from both sides. Now, isn't that interesting? She pretty much knows that this is going to be absolutely horrific for the look of the Hong Kong government officials. But in typical dictatorship form, she doesn't really care. She knows that she is going to pass this extradition bill. She knows it's going to be passed. The communist governments do not care about people. They do not care about, the workers that they claim to hold such esteem for. No. Workers to them really are drones to do the bidding of the government, to produce, to make money so that the government can do what it wants to do. Everyone needs to understand these lessons. We're seeing it time and time again from these communistic or socialistic governments around the world. They're evil. This is what we should aspire to never be. Look at what these people are having to do just because they're in such fear of what could happen. But I digress. I don't want to get into too much of a rant. I just thought this was a fairly interesting story that's going on, and it's something that's going to be going on, and I'm going to try to keep everyone up to date with it because this is pretty important. This is pretty big news. This is a pretty big situation over there. Whenever anybody goes against the Chinese communist government, it always becomes either a really big situation, which China wants to cover up, or the media goes silent on it. And that's what I think could happen here. We will find out. But as always, like, share, subscribe, and I will catch you on the flip side.